It goes without saying, but boxing favors the tall, with reach being the determining factor in many a match. And while shorter boxers like Manny Pacquiao and baby Jake Matala made a name for themselves, there's no doubt they would have been better with more centimeters attached to their arms. So, who are the tallest boxers in history of the sport? And what happened to them? For all this and more, stay tuned. Number 1. Gogi Amitu. First up on our list is Gogi Amitu, who was not only one of the tallest boxers to ever enter the ring, but was by far the tallest Romanian to ever be born. Coming in at a fantastical 7 feet 4 inches, Gogia was an absolute monster of a man, and was actually born as Dumitru Stefanescu back in July of 1914. After growing to the size of a small tree, Mitu found his place in the professional boxing ring, where his reach was something that couldn't be beat. That being said, boxing was a bit different back then, and saw Mitu competing just 3 times after being discovered by an Italian boxer while working for a circus company. Suffice to say, he enjoyed his time away from the festivities of the freak exhibit, but unfortunately passed away in June of 1936 because of body complications. Number 2. John Rankin. Next up is John Rankin, who despite being just as tall as Gogi Amitu, has often been referred to as the second tallest professional boxer in the history of the sport. This is probably due to the fact that he came after Mitu, with big old John Rankin having been born in New Orleans, Louisiana on the 1st of January 1941. It must be said that Rankin only boxed professionally once throughout his career though, which was back in 1967 when he defeated the 197-pound Willie Lee in just 4 rounds. Considering how Rankin weighed around 300 pounds, this wasn't exactly a surprise, and explains why he had no other competitors to challenge. Simply put, he was just too tall and too heavy to warrant further competition, and we suppose that's a good thing too, as Rankin eventually made it to age 80 until he passed on, leaving an impressive legacy behind. Number 3. Ewart Potgieter. Third on our list is none other than Ewart Potgieter, the South African boxer who made a rather impressive name for himself in the ring by taking down some of the most popular opponents at the time. This included the ruthless defeat of James J. Parker, who was renowned back then for taking legends like Archie Moore and Nino Valdez to 10-round ties. Potgieter had an impressive reach though, being as tall as 7 feet and 2 inches on a good day, and it's this reach coupled with some quick feet that allowed him to win approximately 11 of his 14 professional fights, making him the most successful boxer of his immense height. The South African giant then retired from boxing, living out the rest of his life in his quiet hometown. That is, until he unfortunately passed away in April of 1997 after a solid 65 years of life. Number 4. Jim Cully. And then we have Jim Cully, who was definitely able to reach the top shelf with a height of 7 feet and 2 inches. And although he was the same height as Potgieter, the boxers couldn't have been more different. You see, Cully was born in Ireland and had a pretty big mouth on him. He won a total of 3 of his 6 professional fights, but was able to become a champion because of his heritage. Suffice to say, many now consider him to be the tallest person to ever hold a boxing title, with Cully having secured himself the Irish national heavyweight title back in 1942, upon beating the infamous Butcher Howell in combat. Unfortunately for him though, excess didn't follow him around. In fact, he lost that same title in his next fight against Chris Cole, who went on to demolish him at Dalmont Park. Number 5. Tom Payne. Another boxer who ended up measuring up to 7 feet 2 inches was Tom Payne, who was actually better known for his stint in the NBA, where he played for the Atlanta Hawks. He didn't play basketball for long until controversy resulted in him being kicked from the team though. According to reports, he was later jailed on 3 rape convictions, which saw him facing some pretty hefty jail time. Luckily for him though, this brought on a career change, with Payne boxing professionally between prison terms in 1984 and ending his run in 1985. Although he didn't box much, obtaining a professional record of 3-2, his infamy has made him more than memorable in our books. And, as it turns out, he was also the last of the 2.18-meter giants of the ring. Number 6. Julius Long. Next up is Julius Long, who quickly rose to fame in the new millennium by coming in at an impressive height of 7 feet and 1 inch. Having been born in Romulus, Michigan, back in May of 1977, Long made an impact in the boxing ring with his reach of approximately 90 inches, allowing him to swing with force while remaining outside of the reach of his opponents. This allowed him to earn the name of the Towering Inferno, which would later be seen in all posters advertising his fights. That being said, the success of Julius Long didn't last, well, very long. He's probably best known for being flattened by the one and only Audley Harrison back in 2002, which very much brought his reign as the Towering Inferno to an end. As it turns out, having a 90-inch reach doesn't make up for being slow in the ring. Number 7. Nikolai Valuev. And then we have the group known as the 7-foot Giants, starting with Nikolai Valuev of St. Petersburg, Russia. Having been born in August of 1973, Valuev is just 48 years old at the moment and is currently working as a politician in his beloved motherland. But before he was slinging arguments with his mouth, Valuev was one of the most successful giants of his time, winning 50 of his 53 professional boxing bouts. He also became a 2-time holder of the WBA heavyweight title, which he picked up in both 2005 and 2008. Suffice to say, the man could box, and is still considered to be one of the greats within the boxing community. It's really no wonder the Russian public voted him into office. Number 8. Taishan Dong. Another impressive 7-foot giant was China's very own Taishan Dong, who was actually quite a sportsman back in his day. According to reports, he tried his hand at a number of sports ranging from basketball to hockey, but finally found his place in the boxing arena, where he soared to victory in 2014. And as it turns out, the Chinese Dong was trained by the great Buddy McGirt, who taught him the ins and outs of the ring, resulting in an overall undefeated record. That being said, Dong didn't stick around for too long. After winning his first 6 professional fights, he ended up calling it a day. That being said, the native from Lanzhou, China, is still very much involved in boxing, giving his own 2 cents every so often. And since he's only 33 years old at the moment, there's still hope that he might return sometime in the future. Number 9. Marcellus Brown. Next up on our list is Marcellus Brown, and it must be said that not much is actually known about this boxer, despite having performed in around 52 bouts against some popular opponents. What we do know is that he was born in Louisville, but later operated out of Michigan under the nickname of More Than a Conqueror. But as it turns out, this wasn't exactly a moniker that suited the boxer. You see, although Marcellus Brown was 7 feet tall with a reach of about 86 inches, he lost around 15 times as a professional, showing that he was just as easily conquered in the ring. And to the surprise of fans of his early career, which saw him weighing around 197 pounds in 1990, Brown decided to put on the weight, reaching a mass of 273 pounds in 2004. Suffice to say, the man ended things on a poor note. Number 10. Gil Anderson. Last but not least, we have Gil Anderson, the last of our 7-foot giants and by far the least experienced. Having been born in Richmond, California on a date that seems to have been lost in time, Anderson went on to box in just 2 professional bouts. It all started in 1954, which saw Anderson take on and beat Bill Mathis in just 2 rounds. In that same year, he found himself facing off against Pat Costello, who he ended up getting the better of in just 9. Funny enough, Anderson actually won both bouts by interruption and decided to go out on top in the same year as his debut appearance. Not exactly the longest of stints, but definitely enough for him to secure the last position on our list. And there you have it, the 10 tallest boxers in the history of the sport. Who was your favorite boxer on the list? And what's your position on reach versus speed? We'd love to know. Be sure to like the video and leave us a comment down below. We'll see you in the next one.